Getting out of the way of an ambulance seems straightforward. Move to the left and let it pass. But what if you can't? For this, spokesperson for the Johannesburg Emergency Services, Robert Mulaudzi, joins us now. Robert, always great to have you on the channel. Thank you very much for speaking to us. So we're seeing a return to traffic volumes similar to pre-COVID. And with more cars on the road, we're also seeing more accidents. And that means that emergency services need urgent access to those victims. But we're also seeing on Facebook, today I actually saw a community group, people raising this issue, and a lot of the comments were around the fact that people just don't move. They just sit there. Sometimes they're not in a position to move. You know, if you're sitting in a robot, there's 3 lanes, all lanes are full. Where do you go to? So give us the lowdown. What are road users expected to do in that situation?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anlie, and thank you to the viewers. Yes, maybe firstly we must start on with the regulations, the law. According to our regulations in South Africa, there's a regulation 308(1)H which regulates that emergency ambulance, fire engines, the police vehicles are supposed to be allowed to pass through. As long as they are blowing a siren and emergency lights on, motorists are supposed to respect those vehicles and move away, give way so that those vehicles can be able to pass. However, we have seen, in most of the incidences we respond to that most of our, motorists, they don't really adhere to that regulation or as and when they're driving. It's very important for motorists to respect emergency services vehicles, because in most of the times they are responding to emergencies, life-threatening emergencies. So one cannot just maybe take a chance to try and blow the siren and also put on the emergency lights if there is no emergency which they are responding to. So it's very important for motorists to be calm, be aware of their surroundings, and move to the next lane. If it allows you. Of course, if it doesn't allow you, you have to move quickly forward up until you get to a situation where you can be able to get to the other lane to give the space to emergency vehicles. However, we also seen that motorists tend to, if there's let's say an accident, a motor vehicle accident, motorists tend to also drive on the yellow lane, which is already an emergency lane, which is supposed to be used by emergency services vehicles, including fire engines, the police, the paramedics, and everybody who's supposed to drive on that lane. So the emergency lane also, motorists are not supposed to be driving on that lane, because that lane, we normally use it when traffic is congested and we can be able to quickly get to that scene of an incident, because motorists need to understand that there's that golden hour whereby we are supposed to get to that emergency as quickly as possible.
Robert, it's absolutely not an excuse. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Some of the comments on this Facebook group were that, if you see a police vehicle putting on its siren and its flashing lights just so that it has the privilege of jumping a robot, not because there's an emergency, but just because, they can, then why should law-abiding citizens, obey the laws and move out of the way when certain officials abuse their privileges?
Yeah, I think, that is, of course, wrong, because, as an emergency services personnel, we are not allowed to blow those sirens if we're going to buy magwinya or something like that. But we only blow those emergency sirens when we are going to a life-threatening emergency. So our motorists out there have got a responsibility, because most of this vehicle, if it's a police van, if it's an ambulance, it's got a number which the people can be able to contact to report a driver, particular driver behavior. So I think also motorists also have got a responsibility to make sure that they report reckless driving amongst emergency services personnel. They don't have to do also as they do, because of course, them also, they will be contravening also that regulation 308, which I spoke about, which regulates that they are supposed to give way for all emergency services vehicles.
Robert, it's obvious, what could happen if motorists fail to move out of the way. But just to remind citizens out there why it's so absolutely critical that these emergency personnel be given the right of way.
Yeah, emergency services vehicles it's important for emergency services vehicles to be given the way that because they are responding to a life-threatening emergencies, they are supposed to get there as quickly as possible. If we can take it home, you will never know. As a motorist, you'll never know. We might be responding to assist your brother, your wife, your husband, your relative. So just take it automatically that as soon as you see those red lights, blue lights flashing, it's an emergency vehicle, there's a siren blowing, make sure that you are aware of your surrounding and move to the next lane, give the emergency vehicle way to move on, and then you can also continue with your journey. And also try and avoid driving on the yellow lane, because that lane it's designated to emergencies vehicles to use when there's an emergency, because in most of the time you find out that even that very same emergency lane is not available for us to use, because motorists are actually using it to try and avoid traffic. It's either in the morning or during peak hour traffic.
And I've actually recently seen police pulling over motorists using that lane and fining them, so that is a possibility. Just don't do it. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Robert Mulaudzi from Johannesburg EMS.